72 degrees, little breeze, and it is sunny. Cam Oliver will be dealing with the sunshine down on the field, and these players are going to do some sweating here today. Give you a look at what we have in mind as we start this game between the Redskins and the Packers. For Green Bay, their offense is not quite right, and they're certainly overcoming injuries. Pam just talked about it. And for the Redskins, no Clinton Portis, but if you're Mike Shanahan or a Mike Shanahan coach team, no change in the objectives of an offensive squad. They want to run it.
You know, so many times today in offensive football, you see a lot of these teams going to the spread offenses, quarterbacks in shotgun formation. Not so much here in Washington. This is a two-back offensive set, and it is built on the zone running game, and then off of that, the play action that they have had success with here through the first 4 weeks of the season.
Gano will kick it away. Pat Lee is waiting deep. Has not returned a kick or a punt since being a second-round pick in 08 out of Auburn. Two fumbles last week by Jordy Nelson. It's up to Pat Lee from inside the 5. And he can't make the 20. Goes backward and what a play downfield. Chris Wilson. A 7-yard return and a poor start as the kick returner for Pat Lee.
Well, not the way you want to start the game if you're Green Bay. They had problems last week in special teams.
Switched arms carrying it and almost lost it. Starting from the 8, Rodgers has a man wide open. That's Jennings. And the completion for 8 yards, a little more breathing room for Aaron Rodgers, who last week was critical of the offensive approach put out there by his head coach and basically coordinator play caller Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I think he just wants more opportunities to throw the ball and give these big play guys more chances for big plays. And that is one thing, but you got to have the ball to do that. And last week, what they have, 40 offensive snaps was all.
That's it. 2nd and 2, play action. Far side of the field, wide open, and instead of just dropping it off, the completion to Lee, and he fumbles it. Kareem Moore on the return for Washington, still going to the 20. LaRon Landry knocked it out. Kareem Moore picks it up, and here's the completion to Lee.
Well, he clearly has possession of the ball. At least it looked like it from that angle right there. LaRon Landry comes in from behind him and then strips the ball after a nice throw and catch by the Green Bay Packers.
So what'd you talk about coming on the air? Penalties and turnovers, and this was a Green Bay team that was plus 24 in the turnover ratio last year. That led the NFL by a mile. Right now they're -2. And Jermichael Finley, their big weapon tight end and leading receiver, is going to limp off the playing field.
Well, this is already a team that's been dismantled because of injury, and if Jermichael Finley's unable to go, I mean, that is a huge blow to this offensive unit.
As is a catch and fumble by Donald Lee. Good start for the Skins defense. Well, the Green Bay Packers have to be thinking, what's next? They have to cart Jermichael Finley off the field. Here's the fumble by Donald Lee. LaRon Landry has developed a reputation as being one of the most feared hitters in the NFL. And then Finley's in on the tackle. Doesn't look like much. And then Lee gets in on the tackle at the very end of the play. But of the concerns now for the Green Bay Packers defensively, they are injury riddled at the linebacker spot. They lost their rookie safety Morgan Burnett. He's on IR. They already have Atari Bigby and Al Harris on the physically unable to perform list. They're due back, or at least can practice after week 6. Now it's Washington taking over at the 21. Ryan Terrain on the right side. Good play is made. And Desmond Bishop, Troy, is getting a chance to start in place of the injured Nick Barnett, who may be out for the rest of the year with a wrist injury, made the stop. Here are the backs and receivers for the Redskins, and an offensive line that welcomes back their rookie left tackle Trent Williams.
Yeah, Trent Williams, who missed the last 2 games, and then Stephon Heyer had to step in for him. And coming off a game last week against the Eagles where that offensive line played awfully well, allowing Ryan Terrain to run the football with effectiveness.
Now Terrain goes down in the backfield, and right in the middle of it, B.J. Raji. A loss of 1, and we look at this 3-4 defense. Both teams have a 3-4. Packers play it better than the Redskins at this point. There are the linebackers with Bishop getting the start. And now Ryan Pickett is down. The defensive end for the Green Bay Packers. There's the secondary already without Morgan Burnett. And now Ryan Pickett, they look at his right lower leg. So another injury timeout. There's Pickett, 79. He'll need help getting off the field. Back after this. Well, this has been a rough start for the Green Bay Packers. Not only the turnover on their first possession of the day, but they've had 3 injuries happen in less than a handful of snaps. And here's Donovan McNabb on 3rd and 11 with Keelan Williams in the backfield. It's him in motion. Just activated off the practice squad, and a bad snap. It hops right into the arms of McNabb. Matthews makes the play, and the Redskins are out of field goal range. What a mess that was offensively. A terrible series by Washington. A loss of 23, and now they'll have to punt.
Yeah, bad snap, and then you can see Clay Matthews, who comes right off the edge. Actually, it was a good snap. It just went right through Donovan McNabb's hands. I'm not sure if he wasn't anticipating the snap or what, but obviously when the ball goes back that far, you're not going to be able to keep Clay Matthews from being able to make a play on that. And what a great job defensively by the Packers, not even giving up a field goal.
Hunter Smith, who was just signed with Josh Bidwell, going on IR with a sore right hip. Punts it. 34-yard punt, and this is sack number 8, Troy, for Clay Matthews.
Well, that's a gift right there by Donovan McNabb, because Jamal Brown, he's he's not anticipating that Donovan McNabb's going to be 15 yards further back than where he's supposed to be within the pocket. You see, it just went right through Donovan's hands, and Clay Matthews right there to then make a play on it.
Now they have officially changed it to an aborted play, so no gift and no sack number 8 after they originally said it was. Handoff is to Brandon Jackson. Breaks free. His biggest. Brandon Jackson into Redskin territory. Chased by D'Angelo Hall, and a huge play for this Green Bay run game. 71 yards for number 32.
Well, a great way to start this game within the running game, giving it to Brandon Jackson. He does not have great speed. Last year, his longest run from scrimmage was only 9 yards. He gets through that initial defensive front, and then he's right on to the safeties. Kareem Moore has a chance to come up and make a tackle. He is unable to do so. And Brandon Jackson, if he had had a little more speed, he would have scored the touchdown.
A career-long run of 71 yards for Brandon Jackson. Here's a completion to James Jones. And Jones is down to the 10. Let's take a look at this offense. It's a 9-yard completion to Jones, an offense that ranks number 19 overall. Number 6 last year, so they've taken a step back. There are the backs and receivers, the quarterback Aaron Rodgers, and it's the rookie Brian Bulaga getting the start at right tackle in place of the injured Mark Tauscher, who's out with a bad shoulder. Second down and 1. Now it's John Kuhn, first down to the 5, first and goal. By the way, that 71-yard run by Brandon Jackson was the longest Green Bay run all season. Previous high was just 18 yards, so that was a break-free moment for Jackson in this run game of the Packers.
Yeah, and I think when you look at Green Bay and how they have run the ball or how they've not been able to run the ball through the first 4 games, the reason their statistics have not looked very good is because they haven't been able to create the big play within the running game like we just saw.
Tom Crabtree, a rookie tight end, is in the lineup on 1st and goal, and a little pitch. John Kuhn cannot make it to the end zone, and he was smacked by Rocky McIntosh. A gain of 4.
It was a well-designed play. Rocky McIntosh, he just did a great job of stonewalling him and not allowing his forward momentum to go any further. You're going to see him come into your screen, 52. And John Kuhn's trying to get what he can, but just a nice tackle there by Rocky McIntosh at the goal line.
2 rookie tight ends are in there for Green Bay. Got a 3 tight end set. That's Donald Lee in motion. Toss to Jackson, and he goes backward. Philip Daniels made the play, a loss of 4.
You see Philip Daniels right in a defensive tackle right here. And he just is able to come right through that offensive line and then make the play before any momentum was established by Brandon Jackson.
This is the number 2 offense inside the red zone. The Green Bay Packers score touchdowns 75% of the time. 3rd and goal. Time, completion, touchdown. Donald Lee. He had the early turnover, and now he's got his first touchdown of the season.
He just comes off the ball and then hooks over the goal line, and they turned him loose in the zone coverage. I couldn't tell who exactly that was on his outside shade who should have been able to pick him up, but they just completely voided that zone within the coverage.
And that's got Aaron Rodgers smiling after a frustrating win last week over the Lions. Aaron Rodgers in his career in the red zone, 43 touchdowns, still just 1 interception. The 71-yarder by Jackson set it up. Donald Lee finished it. A smile for Aaron Rodgers, up 7. So a 7-0 Green Bay Packer lead. There's the drive. Covered 90 yards, the biggest chunk taken by Jackson with a 71-yard run. And then Aaron Rodgers tossed the touchdown. 17th career touchdown catch for Donald Lee. And on the season, number 9 for Aaron Rodgers. This is Simpson on the return, getting a chance. And Chad Simpson crosses the 25 and pushes the pile out near the 28. 27-yard return. Take a break, and when we come back, Donovan and this Redskin offense will try to do better this time. Down 7. Donald Lee has his pads off, and he's walking into the dressing room. He's got 2 catches, just picked up the touchdown, and so they're going to give him a look. Already lost your Michael Finley, and if we get an update as to what exactly the problem is for Finley, what they lost in that turnover, we'll pass it on. There's Charlie Pepra, who's making the start. This is his 2nd start. Plays the injured Morgan Burnett. They roll McNabb out, who flings it for Armstrong and overthrows him by 8 yards. 2nd and 10, back to the touchdown.
Yeah, you see Donald Lee, he comes and he just runs a curl once he gets across the goal line. It looked to me like London Fletcher, the middle linebacker, would be a guy who would squeeze that, but whoever zone that was, it was certainly vacated and a busted coverage, because that was just too easy. And I know as a quarterback, when you've got the ball down in that area and you're trying to just stick it on a receiver at the point of the goal line, you see a linebacker drop that deep into the end zone. That's an easy touchdown throw.
Now 2nd and 10. McNabb sets up a screen for Ryan Terrain. And Terrain drags A.J. Hawk with him. Picks up 10 and a first down. Good blocking out front. Casey Robach was out there in front of Ryan Terrain to help pick up a first down.
Well, already we're seeing the Redskins. They've come out some in some one-back sets. And the Green Bay Packers, you kind of wonder what they're going to do defensively. Last week, almost exclusively, their nickel defense, and they've come out here this afternoon and they're running the same package against the Washington Redskins.
Terrain. Plenty of room to run, and Ryan Terrain gets 7. We go to Kurt Menefee for a game break.
The Bears hadn't had a rushing touchdown since week 13 of last year, but with Todd Collins starting for the injured Jay Cutler, they go back to the ground game. Matt Forte making it pay. 68-yard touchdown here. His second rushing touchdown in the first quarter. He's also over the 100-yard mark already on 4 carries, and they lead Carolina 14-3. Joe, Troy, and Pam.
So a good start, Kurt, for the Chicago Bears, and that offensive line couldn't block for Jay Cutler last week, but they're blocking for Matt Forte today. Cutler out with a concussion, 2nd and 3. Here is Terrain. Cullen Jenkins got his hand on him. He's only got the right hand available to him, wearing a club on his left hand. Plenty to talk about injury-wise. Let's go down to Pam Oliver.
Well, Joe, tight end and to determine the severity. Finley remains in the locker room. He was joined there by defensive end Ryan Pickett. He also has a knee injury. Finley and Pickett are questionable. Donald Lee is out with a shoulder injury.
Wow. So he makes the touchdown catch, jumps toward the fans down the far end of the field after the touchdown, and now he's out. We lost Pam for a second there. That was scary. 3rd and 3. McNabb throws high. Nearly picked off by Woodson. His intended target was Cooley, and he was wide open. McNabb just missed it.
Yeah, really good route here by Chris Cooley. You're going to see him push up right there in the zone. Gets away from Desmond Bishop, and what should be a real simple catch and simple throw, really, for the first down, and a ball that sails on Donovan McNabb.
Hunter Smith hits his 2nd of the day, and a fair catch is called for and handled by Tramon Williams. Take a break, and then I promise we'll come back. Coming back is this Green Bay offense, up 7. Good start for Aaron Rodgers. Couldn't be any better. Has a touchdown. Number 1 in the NFC with his 9 against 5 interceptions. However, he threw 7 all of last year. Without Jermichael Finley, they're going to turn to the combination of Corliss and Crabtree. Corliss, 81, has the same type body and speed as Jermichael Finley. Rodgers is flushed out, throws, and there he is. Andrew Corliss makes the catch, has 13 yards up across the 25.
Yeah, I like this young man, Andrew Corliss. As you said, Joe, watching him, he has a lot of the same type of attributes as Jermichael Finley, and they'll split him out. They'll let him run some of those wide receiver type routes. He's got good speed for someone his size. But that is impactful not having Jermichael Finley. Certainly is a big play threat, but we all know how much Mike McCarthy likes the tight ends and also the fullbacks, and they're having to use one of those guys now, John Kuhn, at the tailback position. So they're weak now in both positions.
On first down, here's Jones, and James Jones makes LaRon Landry miss, spins his way for 10 and a first down. There's a new way to play fantasy football. Make real-time substitutions in a 20-minute fast-paced game. New games start every 15 minutes. Play now at foxsports.com/live.
I think it's a pretty good showing right now as to the depth and the talent of this offensive group. We talked about it coming in, how explosive they can be, but not many teams could absorb the loss of a Jermichael Finley and come right back to a guy like Corliss and get the kind of game that they just got.
Corliss, a 5th-round pick out of Penn State. This one was attempted. He dropped off for John Kuhn, incomplete. And Aaron Rodgers is 7 for 8 to start his day. His first incompletion.
Aaron Rodgers this week, because of his comments after the game last week against Detroit, saying he was frustrated, he wanted the ball in his hands, he wanted an opportunity to make more plays. There was a lot of discussion then, and I think probably blown out of proportion. As a quarterback, you want the ball in your hand, and you want to allow these guys to do the things that they do, and he knows that they're a much better offensive unit and should be doing a lot more than what they've shown here in the early going of this 2010 season.
On second down, driver had it and lost it. It's an incomplete pass. It'll be 3rd and 10, and we go for a game break. Here's Kurt.
Well, how about a complete pass for a touchdown? Eli Manning hooking up with Hakeem Nicks. 6 yards on the reception and the score, and the Giants lead it in Houston 7-0 in the early going. Joe, Troy, and Pam.
Well, the Giants got their ground game going last week, and now they should, Troy, get that passing game going against the Texans secondary.
They got that pass rush going as well last week against Chicago, and one game can turn around a season. This would be a big win for the Giants in Houston if they're able to pull it off.
It's 3rd down and 10. Rodgers buys some time and now throws across and almost got Greg Jennings in a terrible position. Fletcher laid the hit. Pass incomplete, and that was a dangerous throw.
Yeah, receivers don't like this too much. You know, here you've got Greg Jennings going across the top, and you know he's outstretched trying to make a catch, and then knowing you're going to take a hit. And there's the rookie Balaga against Brian Orakpo. He takes an inside rush, but Mike McCarthy talked about the rookie and said we want to try to get him going early and provide him a little help. That time he didn't get any, but did a pretty good job against Orakpo.
London Fletcher there to lay the wood on that, and almost got a lot of Greg Jennings with it. Jennings able to hop up. Fair catch, but a penalty flag is thrown back around the 29. 50-yard punt by Mastek. He's been frustrated and struggling. He'd like this one to count. It's against Green Bay, so Mike Shanahan has the option. He's going to make them re-kick it, or they can tack it on at the end of the play, and it looks like they're going to tack it on.
Personal foul, chop block, kicking team number 29. 15-yard penalty will be added to the end of the kick. 1st down Washington, timeout.
So it's a call against Derek Martin. They'll add the penalty to the end of the play. Washington has it down 7. Word on Ryan Pickett is they're retaping his right ankle, and they expect him to return after he answers a series of questions about, does this hurt? Well, what if I do this? Does that hurt?
Well, they need him in the lineup. I mean, of the defensive linemen, he's the biggest. And against this Redskin team that really wants to run the ball, you know, they miss some real size up front if he's unable to go.
Saw number 96. That's Mike Neal. Missed the first 3 games with a rib injury. Made his debut last week against Detroit and forced a fumble. McNabb throws. Pass complete. Penalty flag on the play as Cooley makes the catch. Good for 5. Flag is down in the secondary, and it's against Green Bay.
In fact, Donovan McNabb was never even looking that way. It was to his left. Tremont Williams is who they make the call on against Anthony Armstrong.
Prior to the pass, illegal contact, defense, number 28, 5-yard penalty, automatic, 1st down.
So it's a Packer penalty. A team that was penalized 18 times 2 weeks ago in Chicago, only 3 times in their win at home last week over Detroit. Keep an eye on that stat as we go through this game. 7-0 Packers with their 3-1 record, taking on the 2-2 Redskins, who are in a wide open NFC East. Terrain right side. Matthews got his hands on him first, a gain of just 1.
Well, we're seeing Green Bay match up personnel-wise with the Redskins. When the Redskins have gone with their 3 wide receiver sets, for the most part, the Packers have come in with their 5 defensive backs, and when the Redskins have come in with 2 tight end packages, as they were in that last play, then the Packers are going with their 3 down defensive linemen and their 3-4 front.
McNabb's in trouble. Gets away from Colin Jenkins and throws for Cooley, incomplete. Had it in his chest and lost it. Covered by Pepra, who's making the start at strong safety.
You see Colin Jenkins right there. He's able to get by left guard Corey Lickensteiger with a good swim move, and great job by Donovan McNabb avoiding Jenkins and then getting out on the edge, and makes a nice throw here, and you don't see that very often from Chris Cooley, one that he certainly should have caught, and more times than not will.
Easier for McNabb to get away from Colin Jenkins, who couldn't do anything with that left hand. Wearing a club on it. He was injured in week 1. Redskins have been terrible on 3rd down. Here's a pass caught, but short of a first down. Santana Moss, and he was brought down by Pepra. Pepra's been all over the place here in his 2nd start, replacing the injured Morgan Burnett.
And he hasn't been 100% either. He's missed the last couple of games because of a quadricep injury, and you know, this is not easy to do. Now, a ball that had gotten on Moss maybe a little bit quicker, and he has some room to work, but for Pepper to be able to come up in the open field and make that tackle and keep Moss from picking up the first down, nice job.
Already the 3rd punt in this 1st quarter for Hunter Smith. Tremont Williams gets around his own guy, gets to the 15, and that's it. 52-yard punt, 7-yard return. How about next Saturday? The National League Championship Series will begin, and it will begin on Saturday night here on Fox. Who will the participants be? Big win coming back for the Braves a couple of nights ago in San Francisco. That series is tied 1-1. The Phillies are up 2-0 on the Cincinnati Reds. Of course, the story this week was the pitching of Halladay, who worked a no-hitter in Game 1. That's next Saturday, the NLCS, and then we'll have the World Series. Kick it off at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Brandon Jackson stays on his feet, now to the 21. 7-yard run.
Well, we saw Aaron Rodgers right there. He was changing the play at the line of scrimmage, and more than likely they had a pass play on, and the Redskins last week were very successful against the Eagles in not giving up big plays. And a lot of too deep coverages, meaning these two safeties here are deep and helping the outside corners and keeping them from creating big plays, and that then gives a 7-man box, which is conducive to running the ball against, and that's why we saw Aaron Rodgers then check to the running play.
Quick throw for Jordy Nelson, and Nelson shakes a tackle and almost broke it. Nelson good for 9 in a Green Bay first down, and despite the injuries, we welcome you inside our broadcast booth. I think you have to be impressed with the start here so far for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the turnover that they had on that first possession, but other than that, they're getting in and out of the huddle, and I think that's so important to offensive football. In fact, Mike McCarthy talked about it, and that we're not getting enough offensive snaps, so one way to do that is, one, not turn the ball over, but then also kind of hurry it up a little bit and see how many snaps you can cram into a 60-minute ball game.
On first down over the middle, Donald Driver. A catch and a spin, 14 yards.
We talked about it, right tackle rookie Brian Bulaga making his first NFL start, and what kind of job is he going to be able to do? And you know, even though McCarthy said we're going to give him some help, he hasn't gotten that much here in the early going, and it creates a nice pocket for Aaron Rodgers, and Donald Driver at 35 years old still getting it done.
Bulaga got an early start.
That's the way that
Ball
deal
start.
works, right?
Offense, number 75, 5-yard penalty, first down.
The minute we talk about something.
That's why you never brag on offensive linemen. As soon as you do, they do something like that. All right, Brian, I'm still talking about you, buddy.
That's why Flozell Adams won't talk to you anymore. Good for 2 a game. First and 15, under a minute to go, first quarter, and Rodgers has completed a pass to 7 different receivers already. That's why they're tough to defend. Rodgers slings it downfield and completes to Jones, who gets smacked by LaRon Landry, but a completion of 35 yards from Aaron Rodgers.
Like Aaron Rodgers initially was trying to go to the middle to Tom Crabtree, their other tight end, and James Jones makes a nice release, and that's that void that I showed a moment ago with the safety playing deep and corners up. There's that area at about 15 yards along the sideline that the Eagles were never able to exploit last week. That time James Jones was able to.
Another throw from Rodgers. Pass complete to Jackson, wrestled down at the 20. Well, his head coach Mike McCarthy might not have liked the criticism from quarterback Aaron Rodgers, but they have opened it up, spread it out, moving the ball up 7 after 1 here in Landover. Back after this from your local Fox Nation. Well, the Packers can come at you from so many different angles.
Well, they're on pace for 800 yards today. I think that would be some kind of record, don't you?
I would think. They average over 320 a game. Over 200 total yards in the first quarter. And turned it over once. Here's a completion and a first down. Pass is caught by James Jones, who's been busy, in a gain of 11.
Go back and take a look at Aaron Rodgers here, and he's going to get flushed out then to his left, and the throw that he makes right here, because Philip Buchanan actually plays this pretty well, and you've got to throw a perfect pass over a corner and get it into that hole before LaRon Landry, the safety, gets over there, and you're doing that all while running to your left. One of the hardest throws for a quarterback to make. This guy can flat out do it all, and right now there's not anyone that I know of really playing better than him in the National Football League.
First and goal, slings it to Jordy Nelson, who's trying to get in, and he is going to be whistled out of bounds just before knocking over the pylon. They're going to mark him out at the 1, and he may have stepped out prior to that if he didn't.
Yeah, that was close. It was close right here. You're going to see this right foot, and he's not out.
Step.
He's not out there, it doesn't look like.
Right here.
And then he's out. So he's still got a favorable spot. If they challenge that, they'd likely move him back a couple yards.
Second and goal. Handoff is to John Kuhn, and he fights his way to the goal line. No signal, and they're going to mark him short. Chris Wilson made the play, and it'll be third and goal from literally inches outside of the goal line. And I can't imagine Green Bay, if they don't make it here, not trying for it on 4th down if the ball is in this same area.
Yeah, I think they will too, and if that's what they've concluded themselves, then that changes what you're willing to do here on 3rd down, knowing you've got another down to go for it if you don't lose yardage.
They keep it with Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't get it, and now the decision. As of now, Mason Crosby stays on the sideline. And they're going to go for it on 4th and goal.
Well, good job inside, really, on the last 2 plays by this Redskins defensive front. They've gotten pressure back. And on that last play, they got pressure right over the center. Scott Wells. And there was just no movement whatsoever.
Play clock is at 7. They may have to use a timeout, and they will. Wholesale changes in the offensive huddle for Green Bay. Rodgers looks a little woozy going back over to the sideline after that hit. They'll talk about it. 4th and goal when we come back. This crowd cranks it up on 4th and goal.
Some play action pass here, Joe.
He does keep it. This is for the rookie, incomplete, well covered by Alexander as he knocked it away from Corliss. Pressure by Chris Wilson. Lorenzo Alexander, who does it all for this Redskin team, made the play. And the Redskin defense holds on 4th and goal. Two guys hooked up on that last play here in the NFL who were good friends in college at Cal. Lorenzo Alexander, according to Aaron Rodgers, took him under his wing when he transferred there from junior college. He made the play on 4th and goal. I don't know how you can move it any closer to the end zone, but Jamal Brown just did that.
Well, and that's why hard count's actually a good thing to use down here if you're the Redskins.
First down.
When you go back and take a look at this 4th down play, you're going to see Lorenzo Alexander right there. He does a great job initially of taking away the inside and then forcing Corliss to go to the corner, and he's in a trail technique. But Lorenzo Alexander, I mean, this guy has played virtually every position on the field at one time or another, and he's getting his chance to start again here today.
McNabb gets rid of it to Terrain, and he just gets it out of the end zone to avoid a safety, and now Rabach lays down.
I'm not sure Terrain was expecting that one. He turned around and then all of a sudden had the pigskin in his arms.
There's Terrain, and yeah, he was surprised, and he was lucky he got out of the end zone.
Well, and Jamal Brown's lucky he didn't get a holding penalty, and had he have, then that would have been a safety. You see Clay Matthews wanting to draw the flag, and I don't disagree. Jamal Brown, clearly had a grab of Clay Matthews underneath the shoulder pads.
Will Montgomery is going to come in. Casey Rabach, they stopped the clock, so they're going to make Rabach sit out of play. And we'll see who takes over at center. Lichtensteiger is listed as the backup center. Or they could just slide Montgomery into that spot. And it's Lichtensteiger. 2nd and 8. Actually, Montgomery at center, and the pass from McNabb to Sellers. Breathing room for the Redskins, and Sellers picks up 21. That's a big play from McNabb to Mike Sellers.
Well, it was, and Tramon Williams, it looked like he jumps the slant route. You're going to see him on the outside at corner, and he jumps the slant, and then that opens up that outside area for Mike Sellers to make the catch and have a lot of room to run.
McNabb took a shot. Colin Jenkins at the end of the play. Now Rabach is right back in there at center.
Colin Jenkins having a nice first half here.
Play action. McNabb's in trouble, and down he goes. First guy there, Clay Matthews. But then the rookie Neal was in there along with Raji, a loss of 7.
Well, Clay Matthews still mad that he didn't get the holding penalty. You're going to see him come right around Jamal Brown here, and how low he's able to get to the ground right there with that right shoulder. Once he dips, Jamal Brown's just not able to stay up with him, and that's the kind of speed that Clay Matthews has. Now he forces the pressure by Matthews, then forces McNabb up in the pocket, and then you've got that inside pressure from, again, Colin Jenkins, who has been getting pressure throughout this first half inside. There's Colin Jenkins right there, 77.
2nd and 17. McNabb over the middle. Pass caught. It's Chris Cooley. But a minimal gain of 6. That'll bring up 3rd down for Washington.
This Green Bay defense was, injury riddled throughout the preseason, and Dom Capers, their defensive coordinator, did not get the opportunity to practice with many of his starters, mostly linebackers, throughout the preseason. Going into week 1, wasn't real sure how that unit was going to come together, even though they had played together a year ago. And that has continued throughout this season, the adjustments that Dom has had to make because of injuries.
It's 3rd and 11. Redskins trying to get something going on 3rd down. That pass to Keelan Williams is short of the first down. And the tackle good enough by A.J. Hawk, a gain of 9. It's 4th down.
Yeah, Washington has really struggled on that down throughout this season, and when you get in long down in distance, it's hard to convert. Last week they were much better against the Eagles, but you know, here in the early going of this game, they have yet to convert on third down.
Fourth punt from Smith. Tramon Williams from the 15. Has room up the middle. Tramon Williams inside the 40 to the sideline and knocked out at the 32 by Westbrook. Special teams have been under fire for the Green Bay Packers, but it's a 52-yard return for Tramon Williams and a big lift for this Packer team.
Well, here it is. There's a good block on Lorenzo Alexander right there where he might have had a chance to be able to make a play, but you can see what a good job the Packers return game does blocking and how much field Tramon Williams had to work with. Just a middle return and a great job of execution. You can bet that Coach Slocum, the special teams coach, spent a lot of time on those things this week. You're right. They were under the gun in that phase of their team.
The shotgun, Rodgers dumps it down to Jackson. Hit hard at the 30. Game break. Here's Kurt Menefee.
Nice start for Hakeem Nicks today. This is second touchdown reception from Eli Manning from 12 yards out. He was also tackled at the 1-yard line on what would have been a third. His 2 touchdowns plenty as the Giants have a 21-0 lead in the first half. Joe, Troy, Penn.
Well, the Giants took it to the Bears last Sunday night, and they are picking apart a bad Texans defense.
Well, Jimmy Johnson said on the pregame show that he'd take Matt Schaub over Eli Manning, and if Eli didn't play in New York, it wouldn't even be a discussion. I wonder how he feels now.
Here's Rodgers throwing, has a man, but even though somehow James Jones made the catch, he's ruled out of bounds. Ronnie Holiday with pressure on Aaron Rodgers. How is this game 7-0? I mean, it just doesn't feel like that at all.
No, I think the Packers are asking themselves the same thing because, I mean, they are obviously moving the football, and then when you don't get the ball in the end zone from inside the 1-yard line, but you let a team like the Redskins hang in there, it doesn't matter what the statistics look like. At some point, they're going to have a surge, and they're going to put some points up of their own.
It's 3rd down and 7. Rodgers in trouble. Has nowhere to go except down. Orakpo was in there, as was Lorenzo Alexander.
Just really pretty good coverage around the board. You look at it, and Aaron Rodgers didn't have anywhere to go. Orakpo, he switched to the opposite side. He thought he'd work over Chad Clifton a little bit if he could, and that's just great effort right there by Brian Orakpo because he got ran out. Clifton does a good job against him, but because of his relentless pursuit, he's able to circle back in and get the play on Aaron Rodgers.
He's been frustrated with a lack of stats and sacks. That's number 3. Play clock is winding down, and a 52-yard try is perfect from Mason Crosby, who set a franchise record with a 56-yarder at Philadelphia Week 1. It's no longer 7-0. Announcer people, it's 10-0. Green Bay on top. A big one from Mason Crosby. Well, Aaron Rodgers, there's his day so far. He's hit 8 different receivers, been able to spread it around. That sack by Orakpo did not knock the Packers out of field goal range. 52-yarder from Crosby, who's got to be excited with the way his season has started. Tramon Williams with that 52-yard punt return set it up. And here is Brandon Banks on the return from about the 1. He can fly, and he proved it at Philly last week. A penalty flag is down. There's a flag down as Banks is caught by Pat Lee. But a flag back at the 15-yard line. Gene Steratore, the referee, will call his group together. And everybody heads back down to our left for the Redskins end zone. And sooner or later, Donovan McNabb and this Redskins offense has got to get something going.
Illegal block in the back. Return team, number 48. Penalty is half the distance to the goal. First down, Washington. Timeout.
Wipes away a 62-yard return. There's the block in the back by Chris Horton on Jared Bush. Big call against the Redskins. You look at what Donovan McNabb has done dating back to the second half of his return to Philadelphia last week, and now what's gone on so far today. The answer is nothing. He has not been able to move this team at all through the air. Terrain has had a couple of good runs today, but that's it, and it's 10-0 Packers here in the second.
And that's kind of been his play since coming here to Washington. I mean, it's been somewhat inconsistent. I mean, he's had moments, especially week 2 against Houston, where he threw the ball as well as he's thrown it at any time in his career, and then he's had other times where he's not been quite as sharp.
Here is Terrain trying the left side. Collins can't make a tackle. Decent run as Ryan Terrain picks up 4. Brad Jones on the stop, and there is 30-year-old Kyle Shanahan, who was directing the Texans offense prior to this year.
Yeah, 30 years old and did 2 years as offensive coordinator on Gary Kubiak's staff there in Houston, and did a heck of a job. Last year, Matt Schaub led the league in passing yardage, and obviously a young-looking guy. He said when he first started working players out, when he became a coach in the NFL, people thought he was the equipment manager.
Here's Terrain left side again, and he lowers his shoulder, has a first down at the 20.
But I can tell you, Joe, that as a player, age is not really a factor. I mean, and Kyle said it best, and he's 100% right, that all players want is somebody calling plays or somebody coaching them that they know knows what they're doing. And this young man certainly does. He's, of course, grew up at the footsteps there of his father, Mike Shanahan, and got indoctrinated into that type of offensive system, and has done a heck of a job in a short period of time as an offensive coach.
McNabb rolls out to his right, and he cannot outrun Matthews. He is a beast. Wow. McNabb used to be able to outrun linebackers. He cannot outrun 52.
No, and you see Clay Matthews, he comes down on the play fake, and then he's just able to run Donovan down. But Donovan's got to know that. I mean, you know where the defender is, and you got to be able to get the ball out of your hands. You see Kevin Green, and what a great player he was, and he's done a nice job coaching up these outside linebackers. Dom Capers brought him back, and you couldn't ask for a better pupil to be coaching than Clay Matthews. What a talent. But Donovan's got to get that ball out of his hands.
McNabb throws, and he's almost picked by Woodson, who drove that right shoulder right into the ground. Able to get back up. Cooley, the intended receiver.
See Charles Woodson, he's just not threatened by Chris Cooley, and so he sits on that and comes in, and Charles Woodson, as we know, he's a heck of a player. He's injured right now. It looks like his right shoulder, but he's a tough son of a gun, and he has played through a lot of injuries throughout his time here in Green Bay.
Hurt his toe leading into week 1 in Philadelphia. Here's Ryan Terrain. Woodson can't make the tackle. Terrain can't get to the sticks. A gain of 9, and this offense is right around the line of scrimmage, nothing down the field. Donovan's not creating anything, it's just doing nothing.
Well, and they know. I mean, this is an offense that if they can't run the ball, they're going to have problems, because Donovan's not just going to sit back in the pocket and throw the ball to the people that they have. I mean, they've got to be able to run the ball. They've not done that, and that affects what they're able to do play action-wise.
Here is Tremont Williams coming off a big return. Starts at his 25, gets spun around, stays on his feet, but nowhere to go. He'll make the 30. Who was down there first? Lorenzo Alexander, who does everything for the Redskins. Next week, it's week 6 across the NFL, and we look at the slate of games. It's a good one. Falcons and Eagles, Seahawks, Bears, Lions, Giants, Cowboys at Vikings, the late half of the doubleheader. Game 2 next week, and it all starts with the Ford Fox NFL pregame show brought to you by the all-new Ford Edge Drive One.
Yeah, you talk about that Vikings-Cowboys game next week, and the Vikings were somewhat of an afterthought here through the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season, but that trade for Randy Moss put them on the NFL landscape this week, that's for sure, along with some other things.
Yeah, no doubt. On first down, Driver started to run before he made the catch. 2nd and 10, game break. Here's Kurt.
Frank Caliendo's upset pick. The Cleveland Browns over the Falcons. Seneca Wallace hooking up with Peyton Hillis, who makes a nice one-handed catch, making Frank look all right now. They leave it 7-6. Atlanta's, though, marching late in the second quarter. Joe, Troy, and Pan. Peyton Hillis has a touchdown in every game this year, by the way.
That's good for anybody who's got him in their fantasy team. 2nd and 10.
I wonder who does.
I don't know. Rodgers steps up and now throws, has James Jones, but threw it too high. Jones has been the most frequent target of Aaron Rodgers, and I thought it was interesting that Aaron Rodgers said, look, when we line up, we have better athletes than most anybody we play. Let's get James Jones on a 3rd or 4th cornerback, and I'll just go to work.
Yeah, or Jordy Nelson, or, Andrew Borlas. I mean, he's absolutely right, because when you start getting to your 3rd, 4th, 5th targets, there's not many defenses that have guys that can match up with the players that Green Bay has.
It's thrown to James Jones 6 times. He has 4 catches, and this one incomplete for James Jones. So he has targeted Jones 7 times. Even though part of his ambition today was to get Greg Jennings more involved in the offense and try and pump up his stats.
And I think Aaron Rodgers is a little disappointed in himself on that particular throw. Not an easy catch there for James Jones to try to make, and had he have given him a better ball and delivered one on the money, I think James Jones had some room to run.
Brandon Banks for the Mastay punt. Stay away. It takes a Green Bay bounce, and they're going to mark it down at the 25. And so now Donovan McNabb goes back to work. The Redskins have been able to hang in. Let's check the flag.
During the kick, holding number 36 of the receiving team. 10-yard penalty from the end of the kick. First down, Green Bay.
So here comes McNabb, and I think it's at least interesting, Roy.
And then on Donovan McNabb, and Donovan shouldn't expect him to be getting hit because it should have been blocked up.
Green Bay takes a timeout on defense before a 3rd down. Ball is back inside the 12-yard line. The other point, just to finish it, about McNabb is while the Redskins haven't extended McNabb, depending on what happens with Brett Favre in Minnesota, he could finally retire or do the drama thing again and come back. But if he's gone, McNabb's old offensive coordinators, Brad Childress, who's the head coach there, the Arizona Cardinals quarterback situation is a mess. That's where McNabb makes his offseason home. So it cuts both ways, and there could be options after this year for McNabb beyond Washington.
Oh, I would agree with that, and I also think then you'd have to see what are the Redskins going to do, and knowing Mike Shanahan, he's going to draft a quarterback, because otherwise you're just going back into the free agency pool if you didn't bring him back.
It's 3rd down and 18 for McNabb, who gets around Clay Matthews, and now will air it out. Santana Moss. And a huge play from the Redskins here with 3.5 to go in the half. McNabb made that happen. 52 yards to Moss.
Santana Moss is the one who makes this happen. Once he comes on the deep crosser, he sees McNabb in trouble, and right there is when he then got vertical up the field and gave McNabb somewhere to go with the ball. Pepra was in coverage. He was actually in good coverage, but because McNabb was able to extend the play, Moss then got vertical and gave McNabb a perfect outlet up the field.
So quarterback and receiver with a big play. Now the Packers were not set defensively. They were scrambling around, and the handoff to Terrain is good for 7. Woodson on the tackle. And just like that, Troy, a 52-yard completion to Santana Moss. And the outlook is a lot brighter for the Redskins in one play.
Well, and that's what I was talking about a little bit earlier, that every team in the National Football League at some point is going to have a surge to where they get a little momentum. And, you know, as much as the Packers have dominated this first half, regardless of what happens here, if they come away with any points, it's a one-possession game.
Terrain running hard, and Ryan Terrain has a first down for the Redskins with 2.5 to go.
And it doesn't hurt with that completion to Santana Moss. You come back then with a couple of runs with Ryan Terrain. They're more productive than what they had been through the first quarter and a half. And this crowd, you can feel it. You know, they've gotten a little energized here over the last 3 plays also.
Redskins seem content with 3 timeouts remaining to let the clock wind down to the 2-minute warning. That's where we'll go. 2 minutes left. 10-0 Green Bay, and the Redskins on the march here in Landover. Visa halftime reports coming up. Kurt, Terry, Howie, Michael, and Jimmy will be along with scores and highlights, and the Fox Sports ticker will have all the latest stats. Washington in their first 5 possessions had 4 first downs and 5 punts, but they've hung around. Down 10-0. They have a first down at the Green Bay 25. McNabb rolls out, throws, corner end zone, Moss, incomplete.
A well-designed play, first of all, because they were running away from Clay Matthews. They rolled McNabb away from him, and that looked like a perfectly thrown pass. And you can see there right at the last minute, Pat Lee's able to get his hand in there to knock that one away. But a good thrown ball by McNabb rolling out to his left.
Packers have been waiting on something out of Pat Lee, who was a 2nd-round pick out of Auburn in 08. Because of injuries, he's out there getting a chance. Out on the field now, coming on a blitz, and the Redskins flip it forward. That's Moss. Colin Jenkins made the play. And Moss is brought down, looked to be inches short of a first down. Depends on the spot.
You know, this Packers defense, last year they were just so dominant. We talked about the injuries and you know, this year and the things that they have not been able to do as far as stopping the run, doing a great job in that area here today. But the one thing that has been consistent this year from a year ago is they just are tenacious and play with great effort.
Here's a handoff to Terrain, a conversion on 3rd down with 1:13 left in the half. Now 2 of 7 on 3rd down. There's Clinton Portis, who has a 3rd-degree separation, actually tore part of the groin muscle off the bone. They say he's out 4 to 6 weeks, and he is less than 200 yards shy of 10,000 rushing yards for his career. Inside the red zone now for the first time of the Redskins, tied for 30th in touchdown percentage in this area in the NFL. McNabb over the middle, incomplete for Anthony Armstrong. Had him open, throw too high.
Well, he had a chance had he have been able to hold the ball a little bit longer, because the linebacker got underneath that throw right there. But had Donovan have held it a little bit longer and waited till he cleared the linebacker, he would have had an easier throw. But you know, the pressure that Donovan has been under in the pocket, I mean, that's what happens. You start not trusting the protection, and then you tend to rush the throws a little bit and not hold it as long as what maybe protection sometimes allows you to do.
2nd down and 10. This is Cooley. Doesn't go down easily. It'll bring up 3rd down, and a timeout is taken by the Redskins. And now it's Jamal Brown down on all 4s, slow to get up. Starting right tackle, who is spelled at times by Stephon Heyer. We could see number 74 Heyer come in here now.
Yeah, and I think that if you've got Stephon Heyer coming over to right tackle, which is what will happen, I can pretty much guarantee you that you're going to see 52 Clay Matthews lined up right over him. I would.
Look for the guy with the whitest pants who hasn't been in the game. That's higher. And if you're wearing number 52 with hair hanging out of the back of your helmet, come get him. Jamal Brown is trying to shake it off.
I hope Stephon Heyer put on his wide receiver cleats today.
It's 3rd down and 4. Matthews can't wait.
Yeah, he's right here. He's waiting for him. We're going to give him a little help with tight end Chris Cooley.
Here comes Matthews, 3rd and 4. Heyer picks him up into the end zone. Incomplete, out of the back of the end zone, Santana Moss.
Hey, you see Moss there along the back line, and there is, he stepped out first of all, and then he can't be the first to touch the ball. And even if he had not stepped out of bounds, there is no force out any longer in the NFL, and so it wouldn't have been a touchdown regardless.
And so now the field goal attempt from Gano. He was 8 for 10. 26-yard try. A bobbled hold from the new holder, Hunter Smith. Decent snap. Smith got it up, and then Gano knocked it through. Just got the ball on its end to give Gano a chance. We do then and now. Larry Brown, great running back, spent his entire 8-year career with the Redskins, 1969 to 76, 4-time Pro Bowler, named one of the 70 greatest Redskins, currently working in the commercial real estate business. It's something we try to do each and every week if we get the chance. Is update you this case on Larry Brown, and Ryan Terrain gets a chance to talk to Portis. Looked like Portis put his forearm up, probably talking about the blocking aspect. That's something Clinton Portis is known for, a very good pass protector from the running back position.
Yeah, and you've got to believe that if Clinton Portis were playing today, that he could have helped eliminate some of the hits that we've seen Donovan McNabb absorb. And Clinton Portis, I've said it over the years, he's always been one of my favorite players, and somewhat of a polarizing figure here in the Washington area. But I know when I get an opportunity to watch him play on Sundays, the guy plays hard. And as I said before, he's one of the toughest guys in all of football.
Now Jordy Nelson, who fumbled twice last week, lost both of them in a home game against the Lions, gets his first chance to return a kick.
I think we'll see him with 2 hands on this one.
High and tight. That's what they've been preaching all week. Oh, that's off the body of A.J. Hawk. And recovered by Green Bay, or at least covered up by Green Bay with 9 seconds left. The ball is just inside the 40. Simpkins, who was just added to the roster, and a guy who was playing in the indoor football league in Green Bay, when he was added to camp as just a body basically to help fill out and get work in, is now active because of the injuries to Chiller and Nick Barnett.
Well, I'll tell you, Joe, with 9 seconds left, the Packers, they have one chance here to get this ball in a position to where they can try to come away with a field goal with the timeout that they have left.
That ball slips out of the hand of Rodgers. That is that arm moving forward, the tuck rule, whatever you want to call it. It's not a fumble, it's an incomplete pass, 2nd and 10.
The other thing, watching Washington just have that kickoff the way that they kicked it, instead of actually kicking it off. I mean, I don't know that I remember a time, especially this early in the season, where special teams has been such a major part in affecting all of these games around the league.
This one is dropped by Jordy Nelson. Now the Packers in this half have run a total of 31 offensive plays. 25 of them have been pass plays. They've only run the ball 6 times. They have that 71-yarder by Brandon Jackson, and that's it for the run game.
Yeah, and I think it has more to do with who they're playing against than anything that Aaron Rodgers said during the week or the powwow that he and Mike McCarthy had. When you come in, you're playing the second worst pass defense in all of football, and you've got the guys, even without Jermichael Finley, that the Packers have, then you're going to exploit that with a guy like Aaron Rodgers.
Here's a quick throw and another drop. This time it's Donald Driver, and that's the way the half comes to a close.
That's not good for the old quarterback rating right there. Aaron Rodgers is looking around like, what in the heck were those three plays?
And Donovan McNabb was looking around much of that half like, what the heck is going on with my blocking? That's Raji and the rookie Mike Neal. Clay Matthews is always in on it for Green Bay. He has a sack and a half in this game. McNabb sacked 3 times, hit 8 times. So it has been a painful first half, and yet throughout all of this 30 minutes of play on the game clock, it's a 1-possession, 1-score game.
Yeah, I think that's key. And on the one hand, if you're Green Bay, you feel good about the way you've moved the ball and some of the things that you've done that you've not been able to do consistently, throughout this season. But yet, like you said, to dominate and not be ahead by any more than they are, it's got to make Washington feel awfully good right here after 30 minutes.
It's the only touchdown of the day. Donald Lee, who then left. He goes over to celebrate, then left with an injury. With his pads off, he is out of the game. And so the Packers, they feature the tight end a lot in their offense, are left with 2 rookies, Crabtree and Corliss. We will step aside. It's halftime here in Landover. It's a 10-3 Packer lead. Packers 3-1. Redskins 2-2. Visa halftime report is coming up. There's a look at the first half stats. 227 total yards. That big completion of 52 yards on a 3rd and 18 to Santana Moss by McNabb made the first half stats look better for Washington. They got 3 points at the end of the drive. It's 10-3. Redskins start the second half with the ball, and off we go. Brandon Banks is going to it. And Banks picks his way out across the 25 and was hit by Corey Hall. Let's go down to the field and Pam Oliver.
Well, Joe, even though the Packers were able to move the ball, Mike McCarthy felt that losing tight ends Jermichael Finley and Donald Lee really kind of unraveled things a little bit for them. He says we have got to start pulling away from the Redskins. The offense left way too much out on the field. As for Mike Shanahan, he says that the field goal at the end of the half was really encouraging. He thinks the offense may have found a rhythm, but he feels like the Packers really kept him off balance defensively.
All right, Pam. Yeah, a lot of pressure from Green Bay defensively despite all of the injuries at the linebacker level with Barnett and Schiller losing their safety Burnett. Prepra seems to have played pretty well here as A.J. Hawk makes that play, a gain of 2, Terrain on the carry for Washington.
I think what Pam said in her conversation there with Mike McCarthy is good stuff, because you look at what the Packers did offensively there in that first half. Only 6 running plays, and one of those was a scramble by Aaron Rodgers, and so 5 rushing plays, and yet they got the 71-yarder from Brandon Jackson, and then they really didn't continue with that. They got away from that and were throwing the football, and I think a lot of the reason for that is because of the injuries to the tight end position.
McNabb setting up a screen for Terrain. And Terrain runs into Pepra, who makes the stop, a gain of 5. Pretty good open field tackle by Pepra, who's getting the start across from Nick Collins in place of Morgan Burnett. It's worth mentioning again that Atari Bigby and Al Harris, one of the real good corners in this league, are both on the physically unable to perform list, and they'll be able to come back after next week's game and start practicing with the team. Packers have lost Finley, Lee, 2 tight ends, and Ryan Pickett. That happened early here against the Redskins. On 3rd down, over the middle, pass is caught for a first down. Moss, and the tackle by Collins, a gain of 13.
Well, McNabb got just enough time to get that off. He goes to the ground again after he turns this one loose, but a good route by Santana Moss right there off of Tramon Williams, the corner, and then in front of the safety, and McNabb's able to put this one on him and protect himself a little bit. And a nice conversion.
Blitz coming from Green Bay. That's Woodson. Doesn't get there, and this one's aired out. Well covered. Tramon Williams is covering Joey Galloway, who at the age of 38 in his 16th year can still run, but he is starting, Troy, to lose his grip on that spot on the outside. They like number 13, Anthony Armstrong, who's been more involved here today.
Yeah, they kind of start Joey Galloway, and then they play Armstrong as if he's the starter. And I think as Armstrong gets a little more experience, then Galloway's role is going to decrease even more, because there's really not much that Joey does at this stage of his career that Anthony Armstrong can't do as well.
On second down, Terrain. Bishop made the stop, ended up on his backside after getting the hit. A.J. Hawk in there as well. A gain of 4. Third down coming up again for the Redskins.
Yeah, you talked about the safety, Charlie Pepra, coming in and doing the job he's done today. Well, Desmond Bishop there, 55, who made the initial contact on Terrain, he is also playing well. I mean, the guys who've had to step in and get the job done today for Green Bay have done a nice job, at least through the first half. Desmond Bishop had 10 tackles there in the first half of this game.
Third down and 6. McNabb incomplete, and no flags are thrown on the coverage. Woodson was there defending Moss.
Well, they call that the Jordan rules in basketball many years ago, and you know, maybe this is the Woodson rules, because Charles Woodson definitely had contact there on Santana Moss before the ball arrived. And you know, let's face it, it's not fair, but great players oftentimes get the call, or in this case don't get the call.
Here is Tramon Williams with a fair catch outside his own 10. So Aaron Rodgers back to the field with his Green Bay offense up by 7. Well, this will be the 5th time in 8 possessions that the Packers have started inside their own 15. Aaron Rodgers ended that first half 0 for 7 throwing it. 14 of 25 overall. Rodgers just flips it, and the pass incomplete. A dangerous play. Brandon Jackson, the intended receiver, and back to that non-call on third down.
Yeah, and a significant non-call, because they get a first down if they do get the pass interference call. And clearly, Woodson's going through the back of Santana Moss, and Mike Shanahan, as we went to commercial break, and not happy about that at all. You know, this is an offense that has been struggling to get really anything going consistently, and that would have been an opportunity to string together a few more plays.
Aaron Rodgers 0 for his last 8. That breaks that string, and Jackson out of the backfield fighting, and he's got a first down for Green Bay. Good effort by Brandon Jackson. 12 yards and a first down as he carried LaRon Landry with him.
And Washington just vacated his zone, and Aaron Rodgers finds him, and then he does a good job once he gets the ball in his hands. And you know, Brandon Jackson is not real involved as a receiver within this passing game, and nor should he be with all the other weapons the Packers have.
Now he gets it handed to him, and he goes for 1. Well played up front by this Redskins defense, and in the words of Mike McCarthy, they're still transitioning to figure out the 3-4 up front after switching from a 4-3 a year ago.
Yeah, and you know, Jim Haslett talked about that, and last year when the Packers went to their 3-4 scheme, they were able to draft Clay Matthews and B.J. Raji, the nose guard, and those are 2 positions you desperately need. The Redskins didn't have that luxury. They used their first rounder on left tackle Trent Williams, and then they didn't have a whole bunch of other picks because they've been giving those away for a long time around here.
Second down and 9. Here's Jackson on a handoff, and Brandon Jackson much more involved with a couple of big runs in this game. The catch and run for 12 yards for the previous first down, and now a 15-yard carry for Jackson, who has 90 yards on the afternoon. You look at the draft picks on the current roster, and the Green Bay Packers with Ted Thompson, who's done a great job, tied for most in the NFL, while Washington has the second fewest. Traded their second-round pick for McNabb. On first down, gunned to Driver, not touched. Down inside the 30. They'll mark him at the 26 and a catch and run of 34 yards.
You see Washington get into some of their zone coverages and they just turn people loose, and this time it's Donald Driver just running right up the seam. I mean, for a guy, one, to be left that open that far down the field, but then to make the catch, go to the ground, and still have nobody there to get a hand on him, it just tells you that a guy defensively was not where he was supposed to be.
Driver picked up 14 yards after he fell down. And now on first down, it's John Kuhn. And he carries it inside the 20. Picked up 7. Adam Carricker, who was traded here from the St. Louis Rams, is in on the stop.
You know, to go back to the draft picks that we showed there with the Washington Redskins, or lack thereof, and that's why a lot of people, you know, they look at Mike Shanahan, they say, okay, he's the latest in line of these high-profile, high-name head coaches to come in and try to turn this thing around. This has less to do with Mike Shanahan and mostly to do with Bruce Allen as the general manager and what he's able to do in terms of selecting players and maintaining some of those picks and building the team the way the Packers have built theirs.
Kuhn is hit immediately by D'Angelo Hall. And they're going to give him forward progress for a yard. Daniel Snyder took over here in 1999, and there have been 6 head coaches, one of them an interim head coach, during the time Daniel Snyder's been in charge.
It's hard to believe. I mean, this is a franchise that has not won a division title since Norv Turner was the head coach back in 1999.
Timeout on 3rd and 2. So Aaron Rodgers spins out of there, 3rd down and 2, inside the red zone of the Packers, who lead by 7. Green Bay Packers are just 1 for 6 on 3rd down today. It's 3rd down and 2. Out of the shotgun, Rodgers in trouble. Bulaga with protection, end zone, and the pass incomplete. Jordy Nelson, the intended receiver, and Reed Doughty was defending for the Redskins. And it's 4th down as Gene Steratore explains himself to the Redskins sideline.
Well, it's just street ball right here because of all the protection that Aaron Rodgers was afforded. Jordy Nelson just trying to get open there, and Reed Doughty, I think that was a good non-call. He never got turned around, but you know, really no contact to speak of. I think if Jordy Nelson had worked back through Reed Doughty, definitely would have gotten the call.
36-yard try, and Crosby has had a very good start. He's hit from 52 today, now 36, and he's 7 of 8 this season. Nowhere to go for Aaron Rodgers except incomplete, and it's again a 10-point game. Redskins about to get it back. Crosby has missed only once this season. Driver with a 34-yard catch on that drive. It covered 70 yards, ended in 3 points. And now Westbrook on the return for Washington. Byron is out across the 20. They'll mark him at the 22. Take a break, 5-yard return. Corey Hall on the stop. 13-3 Green Bay. Redskins with a football. in the middle of your picture with the crutches, Jermichael Finley. One of the biggest weapons in the entire NFL, certainly one of the biggest from the tight end position. He went down early on a fumble, helping to catch and make a tackle of Kareem Moore on a Donald Lee fumble, and Donald Lee also was injured.
One of the real steals in the 3rd round in the 08 draft by Ted Thompson.
Here is Terrain, and Terrain is brought down by Brad Jones. Fox tonight on an all-new Family Guy. Peter catches his father-in-law doing the unthinkable, and poor old Pop gets kicked out of the house. Now with the old man's life changed forever, there's only one man who can help him survive the single scene. Don't miss an all-new Family Guy tonight at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Fox. It makes me want to watch.
I'm telling you.
2nd down and 10. McNabb with a good pocket for a while now. Out to his right. Throws low for Cooley. How about Kurt for a game break?
How about the Falcons in Cleveland? Matt Ryan hooking up with Roddy White. 45 yards on the score. The Falcons take the lead over the Browns. 13-10. This game now in the 3rd quarter. Joe, Troy, and Pam. Boy, people forget how good Roddy White is sometimes, don't they?
A big-time weapon on the outside for Atlanta.
We go back and take a look at that last play. You've got Donovan McNabb, who's scrambling around keeping a play alive. Armstrong keeps going down the field, and then nobody's moving to get open. I mean, nobody gets open and gives Donovan anywhere to go with the football. The guy's been under siege in the pocket. He finally gets outside contained and has time, and yet nobody does anything to give him a place to go with the ball.
Now delay a game.
Correction. Prior to the expiration of the play clock, Washington has called their first timeout of the half.
So they give Washington the timeout. They pick up the flag.
Yeah, probably not a good timeout there by Washington. I mean, when you're looking at a long down and distance, then why waste the timeout?
As it is 3rd and 10 when we come back with under 7 in the 3rd quarter left. You look at the offensive leaders. If you take out that 52-yard pass that McNabb threw to Santana Moss late in the first half on a 3rd and 18, this is a Skins offense. It's averaging 3.1 yards per play. They're not moving the ball down the field hardly at all. They came into this game averaging 6 yards per play, which was good for 4th in the NFL. McNabb is crunched and nearly throws an interception. Desmond Bishop with pressure, and McNabb ends up on his back.
They bring Desmond Bishop just right off the edge, and they clear out Chris Cooley. He's going out into the route, and it looked like Trent Williams, the left tackle, either he should have come off and made the block then on Bishop, or Donovan McNabb's got to know that he's hot.
Hunter Smith hits a good one. Tremont Williams from back inside the 30 to the 33. 5-yard return, 51-yard punt by Hunter Smith, who's done well in his return to the Redskins. Aaron Rodgers through the air. It has been a pass-dominated attack by Green Bay. And poor Donovan McNabb is getting thrown around like a rag doll here by the Green Bay defense.
And a big reason for that has been their inability to run the football. They ran it well last week against the Eagles. They've not run it well in this game, and they have been facing a nickel package, meaning 5 and 6 defensive backs by the Green Bay Packer defense, and yet they still not been able to run the football against that front. Only 2 defensive linemen in the lineup with that. And that's about as opportunistic as you can get offensively to run the ball.
Here's Jackson, and Brandon Jackson with a pretty good run on 1st down. He gets 6.
We've seen the Packers go back to a little bit more of their running game here in this second half, more so than what we saw of them with the 5 rushes there in the second half. And you know, Mike McCarthy talked about it, that we want to maintain some type of balance, because he knows what happened last year when his quarterback was getting hit, and he said, I'm not going to go through that again. Aaron Rodgers has proven his value, And they're going to do everything they can to try to protect him.
Change up at the line, 2nd and 4. Rodgers steps up, and now time runs out. Aaron Rodgers is thrown forward. It's a gain on the play to the 40. Arakpo was in there for Washington. A gain of 2. Mike McCarthy also said we live in Wisconsin, so we have to be able to run the ball as we get deeper into the year on what is a really warm day here today in Landover.
Well, in that last play, the Packers went with an 8-man protection and a 2-man route. A lot of times people think when the quarterback's under pressure and getting hit that it's because they're not keeping people in to protect. That wasn't the case on the last play. They just, when you only send 2 guys out in a route, couldn't get anyone open.
And now timeout on 3rd and 2 taken by Aaron Rodgers, and that's the 2nd timeout taken by Green Bay. And that gives Arakpo a chance to take a knee and rest. Next week is a doubleheader day, Fox NFL Sunday, and it's a good slate of games. The Falcons, who just went ahead as they play Cleveland, take on the Eagles, Seahawks and the Bears, Lions, Giants, Saints and Bucks. All of that funneling into a big one in the Twin Cities, the Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings. And Troy, speaking of the Vikings, you know Green Bay, they circle those Vikings games on their schedule every year the schedule comes out. That's coming up in 2 weeks. Meeting with Minnesota at home. As we talked about, Favre has struggled. He's thrown 6 interceptions through 7 all of last year. But now he's got a downfield threat in the big target of Randy Moss that the Vikings added during the week.
And I would expect, I know Darrelle Revis has said he's going to play on Monday night. I would expect Randy Moss to have one heck of a game. A motivated Randy Moss, and I've played against a motivated Randy Moss, is awfully dangerous.
Third down and 2, and the pass is caught by Quarles. And the rookie tight end adjusted to the football and has an 8-yard gain and a first down.
Well, we've been talking about Brian Bulaga, and I think he's had himself a well of a game for his first NFL start, and got the right hand going a little bit, but they have not given him much help throughout this game, and Aaron Rodgers has not had much pressure there on the front side. What a catch that was to convert that third down too.
Blitz coming. Green Bay picks it up, and this one is to Jennings, who's spun down by Landry after a gain of 14.
Yeah, I know Aaron Rodgers talked to us about, hey, we want to get Greg Jennings more involved in our game plan and getting the ball into his hands. And you know, in the first half, they only targeted him twice. He had 1 reception there in the first half. He's had a couple more come his way here in this second half. But coming into the game, he and Donald Driver and Jermichael Finley had all been targeted the same number of times. And so it wasn't from a lack of effort in trying to get the ball to him as to why his numbers or his production was down compared to the other guys.
Hand off to Jackson. Brandon Jackson stays up. And he's brought down after a gain of 9.
Pretty good balance right there by Brandon Jackson, just keeping his knee from going to the ground and picking up some extra yardage.
It's the 2nd career 100-yard game on the ground for Brandon Jackson.
That 71-yarder in the first quarter didn't hurt.
No, that helps. 2nd and 1. Jackson left side, and a good play by McIntosh. No gain, 3rd and a yard coming up.
You know, they've got that bootleg off of that action with Aaron Rodgers, and he came out. There was nobody containing him, and James Jones was the guy down the field on his side, and Aaron was talking with him, and wouldn't be surprised, of course, maybe not here on 3rd down. Wouldn't be surprised if they come back to that, try to get something to James Jones here later.
Third down and 1. Rodgers over the middle, pass dropped by Driver. Had him open, hit him in the chest, and Driver couldn't haul it in.
Well, he was wide open. There's nobody that even reroutes him off the line of scrimmage. It's that too deep safety look, and so there's the hole. There was no linebacker that Aaron Rodgers had to contend with on the throw, and he put it right on him. You know, that's another one that another guy in Donald Driver that you just don't see very often. They've had a few of them.
That is the 4th drop by Driver. Here's a 48-yard try, and this one is no good. Two for 3 on the day, and it's still a 10-point game. Snap a little high, and Crosby pushed it.
It was a nice drive by Green Bay, and they did some good things, both running the ball as well as mixing in the pass. And you know, Donald Driver knows that, you know, that possession should still be alive had he have been able to catch the ball there that he dropped. And not only do they not have a chance to come away then with a touchdown, but they don't even get the 3 points.
McNabb throws it into the ground. Sellers was wide open, and McNabb threw it right at his feet. Here are the coaches under Dan Snyder. Started with Norv Turner, then Robisky took over. Marty Schottenheimer had 1 year. Spurrier 2 years. Joe Gibbs came back. Jim Zorn with a 2-year run, and now it's Mike Shanahan.
Yeah, and Norv Turner was the head coach that Daniel Snyder inherited when he bought the team. Jack Kent Cooke was actually the one who hired Norv, and of that group, he was the one who had the most success.
McNabb with a quarterback draw. And the crowd groans as McNabb takes it to the 40. That looked like a design quarterback draw. If not, he didn't wait around very long.
Well, I think it was, because Ryan Terrain, he immediately, you know, took off as if he was going to block. You know, Kyle Shanahan, you know, he likes to get as far away from the action as he can when he's calling the offensive plays, primarily so he has an advantage of being able to see the field. We might see him calling plays from the end zone before this thing's over.
Blitz coming from Green Bay. McNabb finds Moss for a first down into Green Bay territory.
Well, that's a start. You see the move there by Santana Moss, and you know, there's just very few playmakers on this offensive side of the ball for the Washington Redskins, and when it comes time for someone to make a play, that more times than not falls into the hands of Santana Moss, him or Chris Cooley.
On first down, McNabb ripped to the ground by Mike Neal, the rookie. So the minute the Redskins start to get something going, that's the 4th Green Bay sack of this game and a loss of 9.
That's a nice job by Mike Neal. He just keeps playing. You're going to see him right here in the middle. And where he's working there against Artis Hicks, he just stays alive. And Mike Neal got his first action last week in that win against Detroit. And I like this guy. I mean, he shows some real power and some real athleticism for such a big man there in the middle of the field. I thought he played well last week in his debut.
2nd round pick out of Purdue, doing this with Clay Matthews on the sideline. This one is high, but caught by Cooley. Brought down by Woodson, and that'll end the 3rd quarter, a gain of 6. And it'll be 3rd and long when we open the 4th quarter. It's a 13-3 Green Bay lead. Fox NFL Sunday will return after this from your local Fox station. Clay Matthews on the sideline, and we'll go back to the play where he was nicked up.
And you see Clay comes right around.
He knew it immediately.
Yeah, Stephon Heyer, and he knew immediately that something wasn't quite right, and we've not seen him since.
Try to get word on what's wrong with Matthews. Such a huge force on this Green Bay defense. Three-man rush on third down. The pass for Cooley is caught, but he's short of a first down. Good play by Pat Lee, who came up and made the tackle, a gain of 11. But in this spot on the field, you expect the Redskins to go for it, and they will, down by 10.
Yeah, Hunter Smith, he started to run out onto the field immediately, and I was thinking the same thing, Joe, that based on where they're at, they're what, the 42-yard line, that you're not going to attempt a field goal clearly, and you don't gain much if you punt it and it goes into the end zone. Then I thought this would be a good time then to go for it on fourth, and that's what they're doing.
Three-man rush again. McNabb, chased by Jones, just throws it up. Incidental contact, no flag, and the Green Bay Packers take over on downs. Brad Jones with the pursuit of Donovan McNabb. Armstrong was the closest one to it, and this Redskins offense cannot get any traction.
Yeah, but you see these guys come off the line of scrimmage, the receivers, and there's no real urgency as to what they're doing. I mean, they only had to go 3 to 4 yards, and you know, he just has not had that kind of time in the pocket to try to find somebody, and that's not where Donovan was wanting to go with the ball. And I thought Desmond Bishop, who I think has had a heck of a game for the Green Bay Packers, making the start for Nick Barnett, I think he got away with a hold there on that last play.
On first down out of the shotgun, Rodgers, now he goes down and gets a shot at the end of the play from McIntosh, a loss of 2. Lorenzo Alexander was in there to make the play for the Redskins.
Here's that previous play that I was talking about. Desmond Bishop, number 55, the linebacker. You can see him right there in the middle. Cooley tries to come out of the route, and he's got a hold of him right there with his left arm, and yet nobody saw it. You know, you talk about this Redskins defense. For them to hold the Green Bay Packers at this point in the game to 13 points, I mean, that's a good job by Jim Haslett in this group.
They have given up 334 total yards. Rodgers drops it down for Brandon Jackson, who's hit by LaRon Landry. And there are running backs and receivers who are aware of number 30 for the Redskins.
Well, I would be. I mean, this guy plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he loves to hit. You know, that's the kind of safety you want, I think, is somebody who's going to intimidate some people there when they get the ball in their hands. And, you know, I agree, Joe. The Redskins defense has given up a lot of yards. Just a little bit like the Week 1 win against Dallas. Gave up a lot of yards to Dallas, but didn't give up many points. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. But the Redskins offense has got to get something going on their end.
On third down, Rodgers over the middle. Pass is caught, but way short of a first down. Carlos Rodgers made the play on Driver, a gain of 5, and it's fourth down.
I think that's a great possession right there defensively by this Washington Redskin group. You know, for the offense to go for it on fourth down, not pick it up, and give the ball to Green Bay with great field position and not even allow them a first down. That's good stuff.
Mastay, the first-year player, will punt it. His third of the day. It's a knuckler that will, on a couple of hops, be picked up by Banks. And Banks is tripped up near the 40. And it's Corey Hall who saved what could have been a touchdown. Brandon Banks, all 150 pounds of him almost broken. Corey Hall made the tackle. Missed opportunities and frustration for the Washington Redskins, coming off a win on the road in the division at Philadelphia, 2-2. Green Bay cannot put them away. It's still a 10-point game with 12 to play. McNabb to the sideline has Galloway. Taps down his feet, picks up 12 down to the field, and Pam Oliver.
Well, Joe, the Packers sack leader Clay Matthews remains on the sideline. He's got a bit of a cramp in his hamstring, and he's being held out as a preventative measure. Back to you.
So they just continue to fall defensively for Green Bay. They're without Sam Shields, Nick Barnett, Brandon Chiller, Morgan Burnett, Ryan Pickett, and now their big playmaker Clay Matthews. First down, Redskins. Down the middle, end zone, Armstrong. Touchdown, Washington.
You're going to see Anthony Armstrong. He reduces his split. And you see where he is. He's on the hash marks, and then Pepra, for whatever reason, he plays heavy outside leverage, which gives Armstrong then a clear run right to the middle of the field. And that's a heck of a job by Armstrong, because it was a contested throw, and you got to go up with some strong hands to pull that one in, and that's what he was able to do.
48 yards for the first receiving touchdown in the NFL career of Armstrong. Gano got drilled at the end of that extra point. We'll check on him when we come back. Armstrong with the reception, McNabb with the throw, and just like that, the Redskins are back in it. This place is alive. The first career touchdown for Anthony Armstrong, and he had to fight for it. A 48-yarder, 220th career touchdown pass for Donovan McNabb. And Gano, who got hit on the extra point, appears fine. Jordy Nelson waits for it, and the ball is blown off the tee. Now they're working on the back of the left leg of Donovan McNabb. And now somebody's going to have to hold it. What do you think, Aikman? We got a game here in Landover, Maryland, as the Packers could not knock the Redskins out of this ballgame.
Yeah, and you knew. I mean, you just knew that regardless of how well Green Bay was moving the ball, with them not coming away with points and keeping the Redskins in it, at some point they're going to make a play. One play to Anthony Armstrong, which we'll show again here in a minute. And now you're talking about a 3-point game, and heck, now anything can happen.
11.5 to go. Jordy Nelson from the 5. Sellers with a stick on Nelson at the 15. Back to the touchdown.
Yeah, back to the touchdown. You're going to see Charlie Pepra here. What he's going to see is Anthony Armstrong, and he expects him to go outside. Armstrong goes to the post, but because of his reduced split, Pepra then thinks, okay, he's running the outside route. Armstrong gives the head nod to the corner, and that's what then created the separation that he was afforded on the throw. And it's a well-designed play right there by Kyle Shanahan, the offensive coordinator. Reduce the split. Defensive back anticipates outside breaking route. Go to the post. Touchdown.
Play action from Rodgers. Can't get away from Orakpo. Incomplete. Crabtree the closest to it. And this is when 90,000 plus seats comes into play, as this is a deafening sound coming out of this crowd here in the fourth quarter.
You know, Brian Orakpo, he's a heck of a player, and what a great year he had last year. 11 sacks, tied for the lead for the team, and someone who was an undersized defensive end in college, but he has made the transition well to linebacker here for the Redskins.
Rodgers over the middle has Jordy Nelson. Big play from Green Bay. Nelson out to the 42, a 25-yard completion.
Aaron Rodgers got back, got that ball out of his hands, and if he hadn't, Brian Orakpo was right there in his lap again. that pressure inside, and then Jordy Nelson, he's in the slot. And what we've seen of both these teams now is no one's redirecting or rerouting these inside slot receivers. Jordy Nelson got a free release that time and was into the secondary in no time flat.
Quick throw to Driver. Driver's had a rough day making catches today with 4 drops. He gains 5. D'Angelo Hall on the tackle for the Redskins.
I think those are some of the things that Aaron Rodgers really likes to do, is just come out and get the ball into the hands, whether it be Donald Driver or Greg Jennings. We saw him do that a couple of weeks ago against the Chicago Bears. The last 2 weeks, Aaron Rodgers has completed over 70% of his passes, and a big reason for that is they've used the passing game a little bit like a running game in some of the high percentage throws like we just saw.
2nd and 5, and the pass is caught by Crabtree, the rookie tight end. Let's go for a game break. Here's Kirk.
The Bengals were down by a point in the 4th quarter to the Bucks. But Carson Palmer hooks up to Jermaine Gresham for a 1-yard score, and they had a 2-point conversion.
That one's tipped and incomplete. Corliss, the intended receiver. Packers are just 2 for 11 on 3rd down today.
Bonnie Holiday, the veteran, inactive last week, a healthy scratch, an ex-Packer. He's the one who gets his hand on it, and sometimes those are good things because London Fletcher had pretty good coverage there on Corliss. I'm not so sure that that's not intercepted if Bonnie doesn't get a hand on it.
Mastay hits it end over end. Banks will take it. He's been electric returning kicks in the little time he's had a chance, and he gets popped out of bounds. No flag. Fumbled 3 times during the preseason. They're now giving him a chance. He's made the most of it. 17-yard return there. Skins have it down 3. Nine to go. Donovan McNabb won't have to deal with Clay Matthews, it doesn't appear, for the rest of the game. Sat out that last series. He's on the sideline again, and so they continue to fall for the Green Bay Packers. Trying to patch together a defense. Over the middle, Armstrong. It's his coming out party the last 2 possessions. A 23-yard catch from McNabb.
Well, and what did Mike Shanahan tell us last week? That when he got the job and put on the film, the guy who's jumped off the film on for him was Anthony Armstrong. And he's done nothing to disappoint in the short time that Mike Shanahan has been the head coach. And now, as we talked about a little bit earlier, he's getting more and more opportunities. You know, a guy who played in the Inside Football League. I think he was in Odessa playing Intense Football League, I guess the name of it is. I've never heard of it, but that's where he was.
And for terrain too high. Well, McNabb on the day has thrown for 259 yards. He's 18 of 33. 100 of those yards came on 2 completions. A 52-yarder to Moss on 3rd and 18 that set up a field goal. And then most recently the 48-yard touchdown to that guy, Anthony Armstrong.
Well, the thing that is hurting the Redskins, though, however, is their inability to run the ball. They're averaging under 3 yards a carry. Ryan Terrain's longest run of the day has been 8 yards. And so they've had to throw it to get anything going, and they're just fortunate that Clay Matthews is no longer in the game because he'd be all over Donovan McNabb.
McNabb underneath, throws high for Galloway. And his time was running out, and the flag comes in. At the end of the play, they're going to say illegal contact.
Prior to the pass, illegal contact, defense, number 21, 5-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
You know, they get Woodson here. Remember a couple of possessions ago when Mike Shanahan was upset, looked like Woodson interfered with Santana Moss. And that right there was enough for illegal contact, as the officials are now watching number 21.
Well, and that's his style of play. I mean, he's, He's a great cover man. He forces fumbles. He's tied for the lead in tackles for this Green Bay defense, and they can call him oftentimes if they chose to.
Here's a bad throw from McNabb to Galloway.
And those are, that's what makes it difficult, is when on early downs, here you are on first down, and I guess Kyle Shanahan has just resigned himself to the fact that, we're just not going to be able to run the ball today, and so when you throw it on first down, you've got to get a completion as a quarterback. Whether it's to Joey Galloway on that throw or coming underneath, but somehow, some way, you've got to get a completion on first down, because then on second and third, you're just fighting uphill.
Three-man rush. Still gets home. McNabb's bothered and throws out of the reach of terrain.
And we showed Donovan McNabb a little bit earlier, nursing, his legs, and I don't know how healthy he is, because when he has gotten out of the pocket, even on that play right there, there's some places for him to run. And not that he's been a big runner here in recent years, but I think he's less inclined, certainly today, to run the ball than I've seen from him before.
Remember that 18-yard run he had in the fourth quarter late at Philly last week where he tweaked his quad. It's 3rd and 10. Again, a three-man rush. Pass is tipped and caught by Armstrong. He's been everywhere. Tipped by Keelan Williams and into the arms of Armstrong, who's doing everything.
Well, I don't think Kyle Shanahan drew that one up, but I think these are some of the plays that Anthony Armstrong ran there in that intense football league. He's used to this kind of stuff.
Redskins hurry it up, maybe in case there was going to be a challenge of that catch. We didn't get a chance to look at it again as Keelan Williams carries it for 1. Armstrong comes out. They'll work on his leg again. Here's the catch off the hands of Williams and into the arms of Armstrong.
Yeah, I thought at the time it looked like a good catch to me. I thought he had his arms underneath it, and I don't think there would have been any kind of overturning of that play. And I mean, Anthony Armstrong, he's been the only playmaker they have right now.
Out of West Texas A&M. McNabb over the middle, good play, but they'll throw a flag. Desmond Bishop is going to be shocked to learn that he interfered with Cooley. The officials get together. One official may talk the other out, although there was some contact before the ball got there.
Yeah, you come in with the left arm and there was contact there, and then he tries to come around with the right hand and knock the ball down, and
they're still meeting, the officials. It's two guys who had a look at it, talking about what looks to be now an interference.
No foul for defensive pass interference on the play. It's an incomplete pass. 3rd down.
So that's a big call. Instead of an automatic first down, they pick up the flag. And Bishop definitely got his body into the back of Cooley before the ball got there.
Yeah, his left arm, there was contact in the back, and his left arm was on him as well. I thought when the flag came out, it was a good call, and I thought they should have stuck with it.
Be a 51-yard field goal try from here if the Redskins don't move it at all. It's 3rd down and 9. And this one's nearly picked off, intended for Galloway and closed on by Nick Collins, who is injured. He's been bothered by a bad knee, and he'll limp off as he was sizing up that pass to Galloway.
I think Donovan was trying to, with the throw, you hear the crowd react. They wanted pass interference on Nick Collins there. I don't think there should have been, but I think Donovan was trying to pull Galloway up in the hole. He saw Nick Collins and knew that he'd be driving on the pass, but Galloway just kept going through the zone and didn't give McNabb anywhere to go with it.
This to tie it from Gano, and he pushes it wide right. A 51-yard miss. So the Redskins still trail by 3 as Green Bay takes over with good field position. 6.5 to go. Here is the 51-yard try by Gano. Good snap, good hold, and Gano pushed it wide right. Would have tied it. Instead, 13-10 Packers. And they start at their 41. Last week, a similar situation at home against Detroit where they were able to run out the clock basically by using their ground game. Can they do it today? Jackson carries it for 6. Here's the play in the end zone, or close to the end zone at the 10 by Galloway. The question was, did Collins interfere? You and I agree that he didn't.
Yeah, I agree. You know, on the one on Nick Collins, I did not think was pass interference. This one, however, with Desmond Bishop, I did. And Mike Shanahan pointed out to the official that that's now 2 that they've missed because of the one earlier in the game on Charles Woodson that they failed to call.
2nd down and 4. Toss to John Kuhn. Rodgers makes the play. And there's a penalty flag on the field. And it's a hold against Green Bay.
Looks like it's on Andrew Quarles. Yeah.
Holding offense, number 81. 10-yard penalty. Replay, 2nd down.
And it's Orakpo again, who came in having drawn 5 holding calls. The sacks have not been there for Orakpo, but he has been such a problem that offensive linemen, in this case a tight end, have to hang on to him.
What an impressive guy in our visit with him on Friday. You can tell this guy's he's just a real pro. He's going to be wreaking havoc on quarterbacks and opposing offenses for a long time.
Brings up 2nd and 14, and a sack for the Redskins defense. Fletcher, Alexander, Carter, all met at Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of this from Jim Haslett. You're going to see, here they come. They're going to meet at the quarterback, London Fletcher. You got Darren College, the left guard. He's got to make a decision, and the most threatening guy was London Fletcher. You got to pick him up first, but Fletcher gets a free run, and Aaron Rodgers had no chance. You know, even Mike McCarthy talked about it. These two guys know each other very well. He and Jim Haslett, they worked together there in New Orleans, and he said at some point Haslett's going to get impatient. He got impatient there and got to Rodgers.
3rd down and 23. Rodgers trying to make something big happen. He'll just slide short of the 1st down. Picked up 15. A punt is coming from Green Bay. Here's a game break. Here's Kurt.
Well, the Falcons like defensive end Croy Bierman, and here's one reason why. Blocks the Jake Delhomme pass, intercepts it, and then runs it 31 yards for a touchdown. Falcons on the verge of their 4th straight win, up by 10. Just under a minute and a half to go in Cleveland. Joe, Troy, and Penn.
All right, Kurt, so now Mastay with a punt. The dangerous Brandon Banks waits for Washington. Booming punt. It goes sideways but into the end zone. So the Redskins down by 3 will start at their 20 with 3:58 left. 2 timeouts. Go to NFL.com's Game Center for Week 5 live game stats, fan discussions, in-game video highlights, and more at NFL.com/scores. Well, here you go. This is the danger of letting an NFL team hang around. That's what Green Bay has done. Redskins defense has played much better here in the 2nd half, and now it's up to McNabb and company to do something with this game.
How about if you're Jim Haslett or Dom Capers and you're saying, you know, we've played good defense, forget the yardage, but both of these defenses have actually played pretty well. You hold an opponent under 17 points, you expect to win a game.
Boy, McNabb looks real gimpy as he completes to Galloway. for 11 yards, and I think you picked up on it last time. McNabb does not look like he's moving around very well.
No, he doesn't. And whether or not he came in, as you said, off of last week's game against the Eagles, a little gimpy, or if maybe he pulled something or tweaked something during the course of this game while he was running for his life there in the first half away from Clay Matthews.
Matthews still on the sideline. Handoff is to Terrain. Popenga tries to rip the ball out of there. A gain of 4. Washington 2 timeouts left. Green Bay with 1.
Well, you know what Washington is trying to do. Clearly they want to get into a position to where they can at least come away with a field goal, but what they would ideally want to do is take time off this clock, get Terrain going, hit some high percentage passes, drive this thing down, and then come away with a touchdown with no time on the clock.
Blitz coming from Green Bay over the middle. Cooley, first down and more. Still going. Near the 35.
You see Donovan McNabb, as you said, just not moving real well, but he gets the ball out of his hand. He gets it into the hands of Chris Cooley right away, and then just poor tackling. Well, Brady Popenga had an opportunity for him and a couple of others, and Clinton Portis is liking what he's seeing.
A 30-yard completion to Cooley. To the 35 of Green Bay. McNabb over the middle. That pass somehow is into the gut of Cooley as we hit the 2-minute warning. What a game. In for some finish. Redskins with it, down by 3. Some new audiences will start to join us as we make our way through the final 2 minutes. There's the game summary, the day for Rodgers. All the injuries for Green Bay that now includes Clay Matthews. McNabb is over 300 yards, and Anthony Armstrong has been a hero here in the second half for the Redskins, who are down by 3. Welcome in a new audience. That's us. Washington Redskins would not go away all day. In the first half, certainly, that was dominated by the Green Bay Packers, and Aaron Rodgers did not put up points at the end of extended drives, and now the Redskins have made a second half comeback. They trail by 3. 2 timeouts left, 2nd and 4, and a handoff to Terrain. And the running game has not been there all day for the Redskins. A gain of 2. Popenga on the tackle. And now an important 3rd and 2 coming up for Washington.
I just look at this game right now from Green Bay's perspective defensively, and you just say, what a difference it has been since Clay Matthews came out of the lineup. We've seen Donovan, there's been some pressure, but he hasn't been running for his life like he was when Clay Matthews was out there on the field. You talk about an impactful player. So many times when you say playmaker, you're referring to offensive guys. This guy's one of the greatest playmakers in the game in just his 2nd year.
Redskins will use a timeout. We'll give you a recap. It started out well. First of all, a fumble by Donald Lee. Redskins did nothing with it, and then Donald Lee in for a touchdown. He would leave with an injury. Aaron Rodgers is skipping around. Everybody's happy. The defense for Green Bay is playing well, knocking McNabb around. However, McNabb with 2 big completions, one to Moss, that touchdown to Armstrong. Most recently, Gunnell missed what would have been a game-tying 51-yard field goal attempt. It's 13-10 Packers, but inside field goal range are the Redskins now. The total yardage is starting to even out as the Redskins have flat out outplayed Green Bay in this second half.
Yeah, I would agree, and this is a big 3rd down, obviously, for both sides. And if you're Green Bay, I think you've got to try to jam Chris Cooley up and not let him off the line of scrimmage. Earlier I said the 2 playmakers for this offense are Chris Cooley and then Santana Moss, and anytime they need a play, that's where they're going. But I wouldn't take my eyes off Anthony Armstrong either based on what he's done in this ball game.
Third down and 2 out of the shotgun, and the pass broken up. No flag is thrown as Moss was hit as the pass got there by Tramon Williams.
Yeah, I actually thought this was a pretty well thrown ball. You want to throw it down low, and Santana Moss had a chance to come down with this. Was there contact made before the ball arrived? Yeah, it looked like there might have been, but I think that's a ball still that Santana Moss could have caught. And for Donovan, that was well thrown, keeping it down low to where a guy can protect himself and make what should have been an easy catch.
45-yard try to tie it. Gano with a stutter step start and gets it inside the right upright. Almost a false start by Gano.
I don't think Gano's taking a breath yet. He would have been a little reluctant to go over there and have to face Mike Shanahan had he have missed his second one.
As it is, it's a tie game. Gano is 2 out of 3 on the day. The interesting part was Gano started forward earlier than he wanted to, had to stop himself and then restart. Right at the snap, stopped, regained his momentum, and then hit from 45 to tie it. And so now with 1:07 remaining and 1 timeout on the scoreboard, this high-powered Green Bay offense, which hasn't done anything the last 4 times they've had the ball, will have a chance to win it.
Well, I think Aaron Rodgers does an excellent job in the 2-minute offense, and I know that it's something that Mike McCarthy spends a lot of time on. And with 1 timeout and 1:07, of course, there'll be a little bit less after this. That's still a lot of time for this Packers offense.
They're playing as they have most of the day without Jermichael Finley and his top backup, Donald Lee. Jordy Nelson is brought to the ground across the 20 by Reed Doughty. Watch Green Bay. They had to rush Derek Martin off the field, and Aaron Rodgers is the one who was counting and coming down the sideline saying call a timeout. That's a big play because if Martin doesn't get off the field, it's 5 yards, and that would have been enough for a first down. Martin used his speed and got off the field. Here we go. Rodgers completes. He's had a lot of balls dropped on him today. Corliss, the rookie, good for 9. 1 timeout left for each side.
Greg Jennings hadn't gotten the call yet.
Rodgers gets away, and he'll carry it for a first down, not slide, and make it up to the 44-yard line. Trying to save that timeout for the field goal unit, and they just can't get to the line without burning too much time, so they'll take it.
Yeah, they still lost. You want to try to keep that timeout for the field goal unit, as you said, and if you're going to burn it, you would have liked to have burned it as soon as Aaron Rodgers goes to the ground. He had a chance for Donald Driver up the right sideline, but I think because he was running out of the pocket at the speed in which he was, he just didn't feel that he could get enough on the throw if he tried to get it down the field to Driver.
Mason Crosby hit a franchise record 56-yarder. Week 1 at Philadelphia. The Green Bay Packers would have to take it to that spot just inside the 40.
So you're looking at about 17 yards is all they need, and that's not much.
That also leaves the middle of the field, at least for the moment, open because they'd have time to get up and clock the ball.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing from the Redskins is they're still playing those safeties wide. But because of the amount of time on the clock, the Packers can work anywhere on the field that they want to and still have time to kill the clock and get a field goal unit onto the field.
No timeouts left for Green Bay. First down at their own 44.
The Redskins are showing pressure too.
Here they come. Rodgers rolls right and hits Corliss. And just like that, the Packers are inside field goal range. They'll get up, spike it. Aaron Rodgers called it at the line. And Rodgers will clock it with 7 seconds remaining.
Well, you're going to see D'Angelo Hall was in coverage on Corliss, and he plays soft. He's going to come from the right side of your screen. But D'Angelo Hall was playing with a lot of cushion, and so it was really pretty easy for Aaron Rodgers. Corliss didn't have to do much other than just run the slant route, and it was uncontested by D'Angelo Hall, and then it was up to Aaron Rodgers to put it on him.
Remember, Washington has a timeout left, and Mike Shanahan is the master at calling a timeout just before the snap. 53-yard try to win it. Crosby. That's the upright. One second remains in regulation. This thing was just drilled by Crosby. How high up the upright it hits from 53 yards. As we welcome in a new audience, Mason Crosby has missed his last 2 field goal tries. The latest from 53 yards out, which would have in essence won the game. And now with 1 second left, tied at 13, McNabb's going to heave it, hope for the best, and he's picked off by Tramon Williams. Game is still alive. Tramon Williams on the return. He's a punt returner. A little room to run, a little anxiety in Landover, but now we're through regulation as he slides down inside the 35. For that audience that just joined us, and now, by the way, the rookie Trent Williams is hurt. Here's the Crosby miss as he hits the left upright.
I mean, it was a good snap, good hold, and really a good kick. I mean, other than the fact it didn't go in, but I think Mason Crosby probably feels pretty good with the effort and the foot that he got into the ball. It had obviously plenty of distance, and a game of inches.
Well, Trent Williams on that long return by Tramon Williams of 63 yards. He was the 4th overall pick in this past draft. There he is, 71. And he got that left leg pinned underneath his body. So they just got him back. He'd been inactive the last 2 weeks with a knee and a toe injury, and now he's still getting looked at and in a ton of pain. But we are headed to overtime, and so while 71 is on his back, they're going to toss the coin at midfield. Here are the overtime rules.
Gentlemen, the rules of overtime are as follows. The first team to score will win. 4th quarter timing rules are in effect. Each team will have 2 team timeouts, and all replay reviews will be initiated from the booth upstairs. Again, the coin team logo is a head, breast cancer aware logo is a tail, visiting captain. The call is heads. It is ahead. Which way would you like to kick? Stay where you are. Green Bay's won the toss, elected to receive.
So there you go. Corey Hall's had a good day on special teams, and he picked heads. Green Bay wins the toss. They receive. Aaron Rodgers right back to work in overtime when we come back. Well, here we go. Overtime in Landover, Maryland. The Green Bay Packers will start with a football, and Trent Williams is just now getting off the field. It's been a rough start to his NFL career. It's been a rough day for these two quarterbacks. Two defenses have come ready to hit. Whether it's been the Washington defense, the Green Bay defense, here are the missed opportunities. And Gano was able, after missing from 51 yards, to hit from 45, just inside the right upright, to tie this game at 13. Then on the other end, it was Mason Crosby hitting the left upright from 53, and here we are. Pat Lee. Been a carousel of players back there for Green Bay. Pat Lee gets another chance. From the goal line, Pat Lee on the return. Out near the 25. The offensive leaders for Green Bay. Rodgers has thrown for 288, one touchdown. That was to Donald Lee on their second possession of the game. That's been it as far as getting it into the end zone. Brandon Jackson with a career high 112 rush yards. And James Jones, 4 catches, 65 yards. No Jermichael Finley or Donald Lee, two big weapons at tight end, out with injuries for Aaron Rodgers. Handoff is to Jackson. Picks up 3. Here are the injuries for Green Bay. Finley went out with a knee. He's been on crutches. Donald Lee a shoulder. Ryan Pickett an ankle, and Clay Matthews a hamstring.
Well, you look at those two guys, the guy on top and then on the bottom, Jermichael Finley and Clay Matthews. I mean, two of the more impactful players, if not the most impactful players for both the offense and the defense that the Redskins here aren't having to face.
2nd and 7. Rodgers throws incomplete for Jennings. And the pass broken up by Carlos Rodgers, 3rd down.
And Carlos Rodgers got his head around, and he had an opportunity to maybe make an interception on this one. Aaron Rodgers trying to fit it in, and Carlos Rodgers picking it up late. It's on top of them. They're pretty quick, but there wasn't anywhere for Aaron Rodgers to try to fit that one in.
3rd down and 7. The rookie Balaga moved early. It'll be 3rd and 12.
False start. Offense, number 75. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
The Redskins started to bring some pressure to that side. You see Carlos Rodgers, and they're trying to sift it down because Lorenzo Alexander, number 97, he was also in a stand-up position and awfully loud right now here at FedEx Field.
Rodgers goes down. Orakpo.
Rakpo's been close all day long, and he gets by Chad Clifton. Clifton, because of crowd noise, is just not able to get out of his stance. Brian Rakpo goes on reaction of the snap, and he's by Clifton before Clifton even knows what happened, and drills Aaron Rodgers.
Washington should be left with great field position. Brandon Banks waits for the punt from Mastek. Line drive punt. And a penalty flag comes in, so that'll back up Washington if it's against the Redskins. Brett Swain was downfield. There may have been a penalty committed on a block on Swain. A 7-yard return, 44-yard punt. This will march Washington backward.
During the return, illegal block in the back. Return team number 87. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. First down, Washington.
You're going to see Roydell Williams, 87 there. Just not a very smart penalty to have. I mean, he was not going to be a factor on that play. And so you take what should have been awfully good field position for the Redskins, and then you get backed up.
Backed up all the way to the 26. Instead of their own 47. What a difference. 20 yards. McNabb over the middle. Santana Moss.
Pretty good route there by Santana Moss. You're going to see him start to the out route, and then he comes around and gets into the seam there. That was Pat Lee that he ran the route on, but in order to get that throw off, you've got to have some protection then within the pocket. You know, I go back to Clay Matthews not being in the lineup, and Donovan McNabb having had a little more time ever since he got over on the sidelines.
McNabb, Moss again. Pepra makes the stop, and in 2 plays, the Redskins are inside Green Bay territory. 11 yards to Moss on the left side. We told you about the injury to Clay Matthews, but if you're just joining us, a Green Bay defense without Nick Barnett, Brandon Schiller, their starting strong safety, the rookie Morgan Burnett's on IR, Sam Shields, their nickelback, Ryan Pickett has been out since early in the first half as the Packers try and patch together a defense.
Well, I'd have to believe Dom Capers is real close here to start bringing pressure and selling out.
Here they come. Pass is low for Joey Galloway. This is a Green Bay team that won at home by 2 points over the Lions last week. They were frustrated. By their own admission, said their locker room felt like they had just lost the game because they expect more of themselves. They were an early season, preseason Super Bowl favorite in the NFC. Lackluster last week. Trying to somehow come away with a win here today. That's in the air, and it falls incomplete. It's 3rd down and 10, and now the Green Bay Packers, Troy, are indeed coming after McNabb.
Well, you have to, because here you are in sudden death overtime, and with the Redskins moving the ball and creeping into field goal range, you can't afford then to sit back. You got to sell out. You got to bring pressure. You got to see if you can create a negative play, and they've done a nice job there on 1st and 2nd down of getting it now to at least 3rd and 10.
That was Hawk who batted that pass. Here they come again, and getting home is Papinga. A big sack for this Green Bay defense. All the way back to the Washington 46.
Brady Papinga comes untouched. You're going to see him here. And it's really somewhat surprising that Donovan McNabb's even able to hang on to the ball. He doesn't see it coming at all. He's got his arm back, one hand on the football. Typically, you oftentimes see the ball come loose. And Donovan does a great job just hanging on to that one.
Hunter Smith hits it. Here is Tremont Williams, who gets hit by Sellers.
Oh, boy.
That is 6'3", 272 pounds into the body of 5'11", 191-pound Tramon Williams.
Oh, that's one you could hear all the way up here. Well, that's a good job. You know, we hear about it all the time about the overtime rules and, you know, what's going to take place. You see Brad Jones, he was on the sidelines, came into the play. That was like hockey right there, coming in the middle of the action.
And he laid a block on Lorenzo Alexander right off the sideline.
Had a line shift right there.
Rodgers sets up a screen for Jackson. Out in front of him was Scott Wells, the center, a gain of 5.
But what I was going to say, Joe, is you know, some of our viewers may not know they've changed the overtime rules going in the postseason this year. But right now with sudden death, and the reason that they have is they want each of the offenses to get an opportunity, because a lot of people feel that the offenses are at an advantage when they get the ball first. Well, 2 good defensive possessions, both for Green Bay and Washington, not giving up points.
Second down and 5. Rodgers steps up and throws, and he's picked off by Landry. LaRon Landry hangs on to it, takes it down to the 16.
Now it's a ball that gets away from Aaron Rodgers. He throws it behind Greg Jennings, and that LaRon Landry makes a heck of a play on it. But the reason for it is you're going to see a linebacker here scrape right there that's able to get right into the face. It's Jeremy Jarman that got in the face of Aaron Rodgers and didn't give him a clean look and forced the errant throw.
How about the day for Landry? He just returned to 23 yards. He's got 13 tackles, a forced fumble, and now his first interception of the season.
Hey, this Washington Redskin team, we'll see what happens here on this possession, but you look through the first 5 games, certainly the first 4 games of the season, they've just found ways to win a game or get in a game. They've done it a lot of different ways, including this game here today.
They're going to review the interception. It's a clean interception. See, one of his teammates asked LaRon Landry. Pass was behind Greg Jennings, and then Landry with a great athletic play puts it against his body, and that's clean all the way. They have these new high-def boards on either end in FedEx Field, and so the crowd knows it's a clean catch too. The other part of it is, was he touched by Greg Jennings as he made that roll for the interception? The interception's clean, but how about the 23-yard return? If their legs hit right there, he's down, and you would take the return off the board, and the objective would be made tougher to gain by the Redskins, as they'd have to move it back down into better field goal range. Would erase 23 yards of field position. Still be right on the outside edge of field goal range as it is, but it would take it from the 16-yard line.
You see the twist there by Jeremy Jarman, and a good job by him of pulling up. You see that he did not come in with the hands, did not have any reason for the official to call a hit to the helmet, as Aaron Rodgers initially was wanting. But just a great reaction there by LaRon Landry, picking the ball up in the air and then making a heck of a play on it for the interception.
If they say that Landry was down, it would move the ball back around the 39-yard line.
After review, it has been confirmed that the defender did intercept the ball. However, he is down by contact on the 39-yard line. It will be Washington's ball, 1st and 10 on the 39, and the ball will be placed on the hash mark nearest the Green Bay sideline. 1st down, Washington.
Well explained by Gene Steratore, who tells us all that the ball's back at the 39. Now you need a handful of yards to make it a more realistic chance for Gano. And if the Green Bay Packers, Troy, were bringing guys the last time, if the Redskins are going to drop back at all to throw, you have to believe they're going to be blitzing again here.
Well, I don't think Kyle Shanahan wants to drop back and throw. If there was ever a time to where the Redskins are going to be able to run the football, something they have not done in this game, now would be the time.
From here, it would be a 57-yard field goal try if they don't move the ball forward at all. The long for Gano, 49 yards in week 1. He missed and hit just grazed the outside part of the right upright from 51 here in the fourth quarter. So the Redskins need yards.
Well, I would think if they're not able to run the ball, I think they're going to try to run it, although they've got Keelan Williams, in the backfield. But I would expect to see them get McNabb out on the edge.
McNabb drops back over the middle. He completes it to Galloway. Just able to fit it in, and Joey Galloway's good for 5.
Donovan was pretty casual coming out from center on that drop. But he threw a dart in there to Galloway.
Kept it away from Charles Woodson. Always around the football at 2nd and 5. Blitz coming. Pass is juggled and caught by Cooley. A yard shy of a first down. He got 4. So it's 3rd down and 1. And it would be a 48-yard field goal try from this spot. Ryan Terrain checks back into the huddle for Washington. An important 4 yards on that juggled catch by Cooley. Play action from McNabb. Throws, and it's incomplete, but Sellers was knocked down by Papinga.
I think their feet got tangled up, as you're going to see right here.
To the pass, holding, defense number 51, 5-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
Yeah, look, their feet definitely got tangled up. I thought that's what the call was, but after that second look at it, it did look like Papinga might have had his hands around the waist, or had been grabbing on to Mike Sellers. Look right there, the left hand. And maybe that's what was called. At least that's what the official said he called. Other than that, it was just their feet getting tangled up, and I don't know that necessarily should have drawn the flag.
That's the 8th Packer penalty. The 4th one that results in a Redskins first down. Now well inside field goal range. However, a loss by Terrain. Raji makes the play, a loss of 5 back to the 30.
Well, I tell you, that
they can't run the ball at all.
No, they can, and that's not what Donovan was planning on when he came here from the Philadelphia Eagles, where Andy just simply wouldn't even call a run. And he thought he'd get a little bit more help from the running game, but he has not had any help here today. They run the ball on first down here, and they lose yardage, and so now either you're going to take a knee and just try to kick it from here, or Donovan's going to be forced to throw it.
On 2nd and 15. Pass is incomplete, and here's another flag. Charles Woodson interfering with Armstrong, who gets up limping away.
Pass interference, defense, number 21, spot of the foul, automatic, first down.
Remember the injury to Trent Williams. This is an offensive line. And now Woodson is yelling at the official, does not get another flag. Williams is out. Stephon Hires playing left tackle. Jamal Brown is out. Artis Hicks has slid out to right tackle, and Will Montgomery's playing at right guard. One of the reasons why their run game might He's shut down here in the overtime period. First down, Washington, and McNabb getting more than I'm sure he expected. Plowing forward, gets 6.
Yeah, now Mike Shanahan's trying to make a decision as to, okay, do we just kick it from here, or do we try that quarterback sneak again, or what exactly do we want to do? And it looks like they're going to run another play, whether that's to try to move it to the middle of the field. These pro hash marks are so close anyway, or are they going to try to get it a little bit closer?
Be a 35-yard try from here. And McNabb awfully close to the 15.
Yeah, and that's what they did. They picked up a little more yardage, but McNabb trying to center the ball in between the hashes and make this as easy as he can on Graham Gano. I think you got to give Donovan McNabb some credit for the job that he has done today.
And the Redskins, for being dominated in the first half, are a 33-yard field goal away from winning this game over Green Bay. The Packers would call a timeout. Here's the day for Graham Gano in the kicking game. He pushed one wide right from 51 yards, then to tie it. A little stutter step, a false start, hit from 45. Had a short one of 26 yards early. So he's 2 out of 3. He's about to try and win it for the Redskins with a 33-yard attempt. Washington hung around. And now it's up to number 4 to win it. Gano wins it. Hunter Smith, first week back with the Redskins with the hold, and splitting the uprights is Graham Gano. Brian Orakpo, part of a Washington Redskins defense that came alive in the second half, celebrates, as does Mike Shanahan. The Redskins are 3-2 in overtime. They beat Green Bay. Back after this, 16-13.